AI is becoming a lot more polarizing, and you've probably seen it out there. From anti AI artists and academics, there's also the skeptical and denier side is still out there and alive and well. We might say that doomerism is in decline. All data indicates that doomerism peaked around 2003, the end of 2003 specifically, and has been declining ever since. But one of the things that I've noticed is that techno optimism is on the rise, but there's also, I wonder if it's an overreaction to doomerism, and it's almost like the polar opposite, where the doomers thought that AI was certainly going to kill everyone and there was no way around it. But what I've noticed on a trend that's on the rise is it's something that goes beyond techno optimism, and it's what I call a salvation fantasy. Now, the term salvation fantasy actually comes from PTSD research. So, a salvation fantasy is when someone believes or hopes that there's going to be some magic pill or silver bullet that cures them of their PTSD symptoms, whether it's flashbacks or nightmares or that sort of thing. But in the case of PTSD, it's a lot of hard work. Ask me how I know. In the case of improving our lives, it's not just about, getting to AI is going to magically solve, the economy one day and get rid of money and get rid of all disease. It will do a lot of good things, but it's going to take a lot of hard work to get there. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today in my unstructured ramble. Before I get in, I'll just give you a really quick heads up. All of my communities are now set to $5. So my Patreon Discord, that's always been $5. So if you just want a nice gate-kept community where you can shoot the breeze and talk about AI, Patreon and Discord is the way to go. I've also got two other learning peer support platforms. So one is New Era Pathfinders, which is for people trying to adapt to the new paradigm. So that's $5 now and forever, because I just want it to be a bigger community. So the more people there are, the more ideas that we kick around. And then my burnout recovery community, also $5. So with all that being said, back to the show. So I am very much like, I will just own this. I am a utopianist. So, and now, of course, people say like, oh, well, if you put the cart before the horse, utopia is never better than what you think. Your grass is always greener. And I fully agree. When you have a utopian vision and you use that to say the ends justify the means, that's when you get stuff like, Soviet Russia and gulags, and you get what's happening in China right now. The reason that for instance, these nations have done things like, getting rid of all the intelligentsia and killing all the bourgeois is because their utopian vision is one of an agrarian society. So they say the perfect society is an agrarian society, so therefore anything that stands in that way needs to get nuked. So I fully understand the problem, the rhetorical problem with utopianism. However, when I say utopianism, basically I'm saying basically every dimension of your life today will improve over time, and it will be mostly driven by technology. So here's what I mean is, if you go back 200 years, then, I would have been dead several times over from everything from infections to wounds and that sort of stuff. So it's like, if you're my age or older, there's a good chance that you wouldn't even be alive 200 years ago. But then also, for people that are skeptical, like the Neo-Luddite movement, it's like, okay, if you don't like technology so much, turn off your air conditioning, get rid of your car. None of them do. And so kind of the belief that a lot of us techno-optimists have is that technology is one of the primary things that improves quality of life over time. Certainly in my case, I'm able to now work from home talking to a camera, and I don't have to deal with people at an office, right? So I love technology. I love the fact that I have a 4K webcam right here that I'm talking to you with. I love that the internet is saturated and that we all have gigabit per second internet bandwidth, or maybe a little bit less if you're on 5G or Starlink. But anyways, you have basically unlimited internet access to get all the things that you want and need. And for me, that allows me to live in a much more slow-paced rural town and all that other fun stuff. So when I say utopian, I'm thinking like more of the solar punk future, which is like everyone kind of does their own thing and has a participatory economy and that sort of stuff, all the post-labor economic stuff that I've been working on. And if you're new here, post-labor economics is the idea that we're going to decouple economic growth from human activity. So as Geoffrey Hinton said, the previous industrial revolution made human strength irrelevant. This next industrial revolution will make human cognition irrelevant. So basically, we're getting to the point where we're saturating the market in terms of dexterity and cognition with the 1-2 punch of robots and AI. There was another really interesting article that came out from the guys who wrote AI Snake Oil. It's up on their Substack. It's pretty easy to find. It's just Substack AI Snake Oil. And that's, at the time of recording, it's their latest blog post. But one of the things that they said that I thought was amusing is they said it's not unreasonable or it's not crazy to think that O3 is AGI, but that says more about AGI. And they actually said, they echoed something that I have been saying, which is AGI is mostly a semantic construct. It is a social construct. It's not a definition of anything. It's not even a mathematical model of anything. But if you look at the math, if you look at the actual data, AI is just on a nice hyperbolic or exponential or double exponential curve up and to the right. So AI is getting better over time. At what point do you call that AGI or ASI? I already call it AGI. I think it's going to be ASI within a year or two, maybe 3 at the most. There are some very comical things that it can't do. There was on Twitter yesterday, there was a one of those puzzles. It was like a stack of blocks with some of the blocks missing. So it was like a 3x5x4 stack of blocks with some missing. And I gave it to O3 and I said, can you figure out how many blocks are missing from this? Can you solve this problem? And it was like 13 blocks or maybe a little bit more, like 20 blocks missing. But then I was watching the thought traces and it was just going in circles and it kept coming to the conclusion. This appears that it's a 4x4x4 set of blocks. And I'm like, well, you keep getting stuck on that. And so I posted that problem on Twitter and I said, maybe what we need to do for the next era of training is give the AI Lego simulator training. So that way it has more visuospatial reasoning. There are definitely some edges as to what it can do. The visual reasoning, the 3-dimensional visuospatial reasoning is not there yet. But the thing is, with simulation environments, we can generate infinite synthetic data. I mean, you connect it to Blender, you connect it to Unreal Engine, you connect it to Lego simulators. So again, it's just like there's a problem. It's the next problem. But then, NVIDIA is already doing digital twins and physical simulations and that sort of stuff and baking it into their robotic foundation models. So yeah, like where's it going to go? But I guess dialing it back to the point of this video is, yes, AI is going to do amazing, incredible things. Any technology that you have today, you show a farmer 200 years ago, and he would have thought that it was pure magic. And the rate of acceleration of some of those technological advancements could very well accelerate. Some things are going to still take a lot longer. So one thing that I've seen out there in the comments that I want to address is that some people think that ASI and AGI will just overcome physics. That's not really how it's going to work. Thermodynamics is a law. The laws of thermodynamics are fixed. Now, with that being said, yes, you can find clever workarounds to some things, but at the same time, like physics is physics. So, it's not just a matter of rearranging atoms. Like, yes, you can use that kind of mimetic, like all we're doing is getting better at rearranging atoms. Technically, but rearranging atoms is not necessarily the easiest thing to do. But also, when you have these emergent systems like life, for instance, biological systems, the emergent complexity is astounding. And managing that complexity is the hard part, not necessarily moving the atoms around or knowing what atoms to move around in the first place. And then figuring out how to move the right atoms around. So, for instance, we can regress human cells to a rejuvenated state in the Petri dish right now. But if you do that in a human body, 1, they'll die, and 2, they'll get like turbo cancer. And I'm not even exaggerating. So yeah, you get really, really crazy tumors if you use some of these factors on full-fledged human bodies. Now, however, the fact that there are immortal lines of human cells, so the HeLa cells, the Henrietta Lacks cancer cells, if you're not familiar with this story, a woman died of cancer back in the 50s, and the tumor cells were magnified in Petri dishes, and they're still for sale everywhere. And so basically the tumor that she had, the cells had some kind of mutation that meant that they never age and they never die. So we have a real life example of immortal human cells, but they're cancerous. And so it's like, well, you don't want to live forever like Akira. And if you've ever seen Akira, like that's bad. So anyways, I guess that's about it. I just wanted to address that AI is becoming more polarizing, and it seems like let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree, but it really seems like this salvation fantasy level of thinking is maybe a reaction to doomerism. Like as doomerism is fading, this like it goes beyond techno optimism, it goes beyond techno utopianism, and it goes straight to AI will magically solve everything, which is just like I've tried to be a little bit more reasonable lately, so let me know how that's going, and let me know what you think. But yeah, thanks for watching. Cheers.